Hello students, welcome to Unit 3 Notes, Lesson 3. Today we're talking about congruent line segments. This is IXL B7. So congruent means equal. So what that means is that, let's say QT was equal to segment RS. Well, that means that QT segment is also congruent to segment RS. What's the difference of this? Well, QT, this segment here, QT has a length 29. So here we write 29 millimeters is equal to RS, which is 29 millimeters. So if 29 millimeters equals 29 millimeters, then QT does equal RS, and then QT is congruent to RS. Here's the major difference between equality and congruence. So QT, first off, we write it differently. We write it without the hat. Okay, so it doesn't have a hat above it, and RS doesn't have a hat because we're using equality. But what it means is that they have equal lengths, and they have a number associated with them. In this case, the number is 29. QT segment with the hat above it, and RS with the segment with the hat above it, with this congruent sign means, hey, they are the same, they are equal, but I don't know what their lengths are. It's kind of just making a general statement like, yep, those two things are equal. I don't know much about them, but I know that in some way they're equal and that they have a value that is matched. So we're going to determine if RS and QT are congruent. Well, I kind of just showed you how RS and QT were congruent because look at, they are the same length, therefore they're equal, and if they're equal, therefore they're congruent. So I can say that RS hat is congruent to QT hat. We can also make the statement that RQ hat is congruent to ST with the hat. Okay? The reason why this works is simply because of the values that we see. Okay, and I'm actually on, hold on one sec, not on the major document that I should be on. Let me just go back. Yeah, I should be on this one. Okay. Before I get any further. Alrighty, so the answer to this is yes. Okay. Ooh, now we're going to compare shape to shape. So is DE, is it congruent to GH? Well, let's see. DE is equal to 123 miles. It's right here. DE is right here. Now GH is over on this side. GH is 123 miles. So let's say GH is also 123 miles. Well, if one of them is 123 miles and the other is 123 miles, then in this case we can use substitution and say that wherever I see 123, I'll put in GH. So DE equals GH. Therefore, segment DE is congruent to segment GH. And so that is a true statement. So yes, they are congruent. Now, what's cool about this is you notice these shapes are not the same shape. It's not asking, are the two figures congruent? It's just asking, does this part of this figure, is that congruent to this part of this figure? And that is true. Here's what's really cool. AB is congruent to DE, is congruent to DC, is congruent to GH, is congruent to HI, IJ, JK, KL, and GF, sorry. All right, so there's a lot of congruence here. You can actually make an extended congruence if you wanted to. you could literally say CD is congruent to DE is congruent to AB is congruent to FG is congruent to GH is congruent to HI is congruent to IJ is congruent to JK is congruent to KN. Wow, those are all congruent. So any option, even if they switched IH, if they switch this to be IH, it's still congruent to HG or GH. So it doesn't matter the order of your segments, but these are all congruent. Okay, the next one, we are comparing these two, is BH. BH is 137 and JK is 52. So BH is 137 feet and JK is 52 feet. 137 does not equal 52. So the answer to this is no, they are not congruent. Okay, so we wouldn't even write it as a congruent statement because they are not. The only things that are congruent are like JI and IK with HG and BC. So we just have to be careful which pieces they're asking for. All right. Then you might see it on a number line. So let's look. EF. How long is EF? We see EF is 1, 2. So EF is from 3 to 5 is 2 units. And then what about FG? FG is 1 unit. So FG equals 1. 2 does not equal 1. So we can say that these are a no. They're not congruent. All right. UW and TV. So UW is 1, 2. So UW is, oh, be careful. It's not 2. It's 50, 100. They are 100 apart. So from 250 to 350 is a distance of 100. And we can do that by doing right minus left. So right minus left. Right minus left is 350 minus 250, which is 100. So UW is 100. And then this other one, from T to V, so right minus left, V is 300, T is 100, and so that is 200. So TV is 200. 100 does not equal 200, so the answer to this is no. Okay, what's this right minus left? It's just the difference of how far apart they are. Remember when we did midpoint, we did right minus left divided by 2. This is just right minus left, but we're not dividing by 2 because we're not interested in what's in the middle. We're just interested in how far apart they are. Why didn't I do left minus right? Well, you would always get a negative number, and I want my distance to show up as a positive number. That's all. Okay. Can you conclude that QW and UV are congruent? Well, sometimes we use variables. So let's see, QW is equal to 9B and UV is equal to 9B. Because 9B equals 9B, we can say QW does equal UV. So QW, line segment, is congruent to line segment UV. So this is a yes, this is a true statement. Oops. Yes, these are congruent. And we're just basing on variables. Just because we know that 9b equals 9b. Because whatever b is, it will make that equal. All right, this next one. Can you conclude that IP and NP are congruent? Well, take a look. Here we have IP, which has a tick mark, and we have NP, which has a tick mark. So the answer, because they both have tick marks, is yes, they are congruent. Awesome. I don't know where the little box went for that one. I think it might be overlapped. Okay, so tick marks also prove that they are congruent. And then here's our last one. Look at, we have different sets of tick marks. So these are congruent, and then all of these are congruent. Okay, so TU has 2 tick marks, and QR has 2 tick marks. Therefore, the tick marks individually tell us that they are congruent, but as a whole, those are congruent. So SR and VW are congruent, and the rest are RQ, QW, VU, UT, and TS. Those are all congruent. All right, that's the end of this lesson. It was pretty quick. But again, this is IXL B7. Okay, and good luck.